Good evening, Jessica and Yuki. I mean, today was amazing. It was inspiring, it was educational, and above all else, it's a day that the hundreds in attendance won't soon forget. Once Javier leaves this building, he'll officially be a free man. His lawyer says he could get his U visa as early as next year.
I mean, it's like burning my eyes because they used tear gas or something to clear the crowd. There was lots of looting.
On Saturday, Opera North will honor Malcolm's legacy by presenting a plaque to his family. And then soon they'll plant the seed for an emerging artist scholarship that will bear his name.
COVID-19 basically caused pneumonia to develop in both of his lungs. He was given strong antibiotics.
But everybody I talked to, and I've interviewed so many people who have this, and they said that there was a moment in there where they thought, this might take me out. And they never felt that way. Did you have that moment?
Absolutely.
I've been told that Carmilla and her 4 children will live in a classroom that's adjacent to this church and that she'll help prepare the meals that are served to those in need 5 days a week. What would be the best result for you and your community?
Give them TPS.
So what do you say to the business owners who claim that this bill is race discrimination?
I really don't care what race they are.
What did the visits and the calls from your daughter do for you while you were on the inside?
It kept me alive.
We'll have a decision in this case by the middle of next year. And let me tell you, Yuki and Jessica, I mean, states like Pennsylvania and about a dozen others have already passed laws. So if New Jersey... Rahel and Erica, it is cold out here. But let me tell you, yesterday it was cold. It was painful as the snow came down. Then it was a lot of fun in the evening. And now it's just a mess. Now, dozens of people have been stopping by all evening since we got here just to take a look at this new statue of Octavius V. Cato. Now, the sculptor, his name is Brantley Cadet. He's a Haitian American, and he said he wanted this statue to be accessible, so he made it low to the ground so people can literally come by, stop, and touch it and be inspired. Live at City Hall, Cherri Gregg, KYW News Radio for CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
And history.
The head would be right here.
This family is heartbroken.
This is terrible.
After discovering the final resting place of their grandmother, Ruth Pasley.
No name, no nothing. Like, how do we know my grandma is here?
The 85-year-old died New Year's Eve of last year, but they didn't find out until 7 months later.
All I want to know is what happened to my grandmother, when, and why weren't we informed?
A retired teacher's aide, Miss Ruth, lived on her own for years. But when her son died and dementia set in, the court appointed a legal guardian. He moved Miss Ruth to this facility 26 miles away.
People just went through when they could.
They last saw Miss Ruth in December. When she died later that month, the nursing home called the guardian, but no one called the family. Wilson says he asked the guardian where Miss Ruth was buried, but he would not tell them. It took weeks of effort to discover Miss Ruth's body lies here in this grave with 4 strangers.
We got to find a way to get her out of here.
So you mean to tell me the laws have no requirement that a guardian stay in touch with the family?
The statute, as it exists now, requires people to report. But it doesn't require a whole lot beyond that.
While visits and calls to clients and the family are needed for a guardian to do a thorough job, it is not required. Courts are understaffed and guardians earn only $100 a month from poor seniors like Ms. Ruth, so some do a volume business and perform minimum duties. According to court filings, Ms. Ruth's guardian only visited her once in 2.5 years.
There are efforts being made to try to tighten things up.
In 2014, the Pennsylvania Elder Law Task Force released a report with 130 recommendations. One reform is the guardianship tracking system, which launches this year.
It will allow judges to put red flags on guardians who do something wrong.
Other recommendations include mandatory training, a Bill of Rights for seniors and family, and mandatory background checks. Meanwhile,
Grandma was beautiful.
David Wilson must deal with the guilt of leaving the care of his grandma Ruth to a stranger.
It still hurts.
While the family figures out how to say goodbye, they'll take the lesson to heart. Do your part to check in on those you love. Cherri Gregg, KYW News Radio for CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Frightened's not the right word. I guess I'm more apprehensive.
Gerald Dugan was a bag of nerves today. 40 years ago, he convicted then 15-year-old Kevin Brinkley for the Strawberry Mansion murder of beloved egg delivery man Charles Haig. But today, Dugan wants to make amends.
Thanks for coming.
Or at least try. Kevin's brother Ronald, shown in this photo with Kevin taken last week, repeatedly confessed to the murder. Both even took lie detector tests years ago and passed.
I'm sorry. There's nothing in the world I can do to change what happened.
In recent weeks, Dugan wrote the parole board, telling them he likely prosecuted the wrong man for Haig's murder. Kevin was resentenced under the U.S. Supreme Court ruling deeming mandatory life without parole illegal for juveniles. And last week, after 40 years, at age 55, he was set free.
Free at last, y'all.
Today, he listened to Dugan's apology in silence, with only this to say.
So we publicly want to say we apologize to the Haig family.
The Brinkleys fought for Kevin, telling the DA's office they got the wrong brother.
We tried to, 40 years ago, tell them that this was wrong.
They want authorities to exonerate and compensate Kevin.
Stop the bleeding. You've done enough.
As for Dugan, he believes there's one way to prove Kevin's innocence.
If those pants exist, someone's DNA is there.
The DA's office issued a statement today saying in part it remains confident in the conviction and it took no position on Kevin Brinkley's request for parole. In the News Center, Cherri Gregg, KYW News Radio for CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Mikiel El-Mekki describes himself as a super nerd. Yeah, that's him rolling through the nearly half dozen languages that he speaks. But El-Mekki funnels that mental agility into teaching kids how to use these 64 squares.
Life is the only thing that has more possibilities than a chess game.
El-Mekki is founder of the Paul Robeson Chess Club.
You should have taken the knight, but you touched the pawn.
It trains kids as young as 3 to use their minds to overpower others on this board through strategy, logic, and creativity.
We reject the lie of too young. We reject that lie. I was playing chess at 3.
El-Mekki fell in love with the game before kindergarten and was frequently found in face-offs with his big brother. As a kid, he spent a lot of time studying Black history.
It nurtured in me from a youth.
So when he founded the chess club 15 years ago, he named it after one of his heroes, Paul Robeson.
No matter what choices he faced, he never would compromise his values.
El-Mekki partnered with the Paul Robeson House and Museum so kids could be a part of the legacy.
And what you can do with your brain is limitless.
El-Mekki's methods help strengthen minds, one move at a time.
They thrive in the growth and self-confidence, the empowerment, the ownership they get from seeing how smart they are.
And the group is highly successful, nicknamed Team Genius. They've won 14 top national honors, 5 in the past 2 years, and they'll play anyone, anywhere, at any time.
They put fire to the board. They put fire to the board. Serious chess. This is our culture.
The plan is to keep winning. El-Mekki's vision is to take Team Genius international. Complete this sentence. I believe I'm changing the game by
empowering deeply and profoundly the next generation of great problem solvers. Legends on 3. 1, 2, 3. Legends!
In West Philadelphia, Cherri Gregg, KYW News Radio for CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Did you see how many young people of all different cultures and backgrounds were in that class? That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Absolutely fantastic.
From KYW News Radio, the Delaware Valley's news authority, this is Flashpoint. What's igniting debate online and in your community? I'm KYW Community Affairs reporter Cherri Gregg, and we'll run through the big issues of the week that are getting folks hot under the collar. President Trump literally inserted himself into the public discourse over whether to kneel or to not kneel. Do you think him inserting himself in this argument, he is making opinions and making statements on behalf of the American people, like Georgia said, could there be repercussions?
Well, absolutely. I think that when a government agency or government agent, such as the president, inserts himself and essentially is directing a private employer to take certain actions against an employee, it no longer becomes a private issue, it becomes a public issue.
I mean, how can someone just say you did something, like LaTanya was just accused of something by somebody, and then you just end up in limbo, and it takes so long to, figure things out? Is there something you could do to stop people from doing that?
Well, there are policies that the DA's office could implement that I've seen them implement in cases where they're alerted to significant amounts of trouble with the case.
Philadelphia has a growing community. On Facebook, they're called Polydelphia, with about 1,000 members. So what is polyamory? How does it work? And why would you do it? With me in the studio to discuss this flashpoint is Kevin Patterson, author of Love's Not Colorblind, and Rebecca Hiles, who wrote It's Called Polyamory, coming out about your non-monogamous relationships. You guys have had a relationship for about 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Kevin, you're married.
I am.
Talk about your marriage and then how you were able to, was this something you agreed on from the gate?
My wife and I just sort of stumbled into it, like very early in our relationship. We'd only been going out maybe like 6 or 7 months. We just sort of stumbled into an open situation. And when we thought it was going to get weird and awkward, it just sort of didn't.
So nobody gets upset. Nobody gets jealous or mad or anything like that.
That is a lie.
Yeah.
That's a big myth. Okay.
That is a huge myth.
I saw you at your hearing, your resentencing hearing. You expressed a level of regret that I had rarely seen. Spoke to the father of Angel Price. He was there. You looked directly in his direction.
And I waited 30 years to speak to Mr. Angel that way.
Mm-hmm. What was that like that day?
I didn't know what I was going to do, what I was going to say. I just knew that when I heard that he was going to be there, that I would have to seize on this opportunity to let him know that it was not his fault.
Everybody in his family blamed him for Angel.
I didn't know that part. I didn't know that. And a lot of times, as children, being 15 years old is not to make an excuse. I see it happening over and over again, young people making horrible decisions.